If you find yourself ever spending too much time on researching ideas and how to do this and that for your project and picking names and all this interesting stuff you get stuck in, there might be a better alternative. Today, I'd like to show you how you can use ChatGPT and other AI chatbots to brainstorm ideas for your business, research new avenues, and just generally cut down on the amount of time you spend on small tasks. As the old adage goes, work smarter, not harder. First up, let's take a look at 3 tips that I always recommend when dealing with any sort of AI chatbot, in particular ChatGPT. Number 1, be as specific as possible. You always want to give AI chatbots in your prompts as much information as humanly possible. So if you are asking it to do something, you want to make sure that you go and input everything related to what you want, why you want it potentially, and how you want it delivered. So you want to put in as much information as possible. Number 2, you want to use intentional keywords and phrases to refine the results. Just like the first tip here, the goal is to guide the AI to the results you want, or in other words, to guide the AI to the ideal response that you want. In this case, there's a lot of techniques, but some of the most common ones I use is you could include in your prompt the instructions to make sure that the result is understandable by someone with a 5th grade education or a high school education or any sort of simple language that can be understood by most of the population. And this just helps it be more clear and understandable for you when you get the result. Number 3, which is don't use sensitive information in your prompt. Now, this is more of advice. You will most likely see this on ChatGPT, for example, where they have a disclaimer of not to include sensitive information which you consider sensitive in your prompts. So I just wanted to include that to make sure that you are aware of these sort of dangers that are present in any sort of AI language learning model. With that out of the way, let's look at how to actually use ChatGPT or any other AI chatbot you prefer in your brainstorming sessions. First up on our list is going to be process brainstorming. This is any sort of brainstorming where you need to think of processes, anything where you need to have a new step-by-step process, anything related to your business or your project or anything related to that. Maybe you're not sure how to build a user flow or what it even is. Maybe you're trying to figure out what kind of documents to include in your business plan. There are all types of applications for process brainstorming, and the goal here is to cut down on the amount of time it takes you to think of these processes. Of course, you're going to need to think about it further on your own, but using process brainstorming can really cut down the amount of time it takes to do these things. So let's take a look at an example. So here we have an example of the process brainstorming technique where we see here in ChatGPT, I've given it the prompt, I want to build a process for client outreach through cold calling so that I can achieve 5 new clients in a month. So here we've utilized a certain level of specificity where we've told the AI what we want and why we want it. Then we give clear instructions to the AI. I want you to help me brainstorm ideas for my client outreach process. Again, as specific as possible. And then lastly, we clarify some more information here. So for reference, my business offers AI automation services, and I'm targeting the healthcare industry. So again, we want to make sure that we get as specific as possible. Detail is important. And then lastly, we use one of our previous tips here, which is to use intentional language. In this case, we've added more instruction by saying, please use simple language that someone with an 8th grade reading level would understand. And so here then it gives us a step-by-step client outreach process for cold calling. And so we have it broken up into multiple phases: research, prepare, create a script, introduction. And it gives us all these specific steps and also some examples of what we might think or say. And at the bottom here, it also gives us a call log. Now, what's important here is that we've gotten a process. It may not be the perfect process. It may not be a process we particularly want to use. If you think from the perspective of somebody who has no idea what client outreach is or what cold calling is, this could give you a clear step-by-step process that you can then execute in order to start getting results, okay? And the goal here is to think less of how to actually build the process, let the AI handle that, And then we, as the human, go out and we start to execute on that process. Next up is name brainstorming, which focuses on experimenting with words to generate new and creative use cases. This can be anything from brainstorming new names for a new feature on your SaaS platform, or even brainstorming new ideas for the name of your business or startup, or even marketing documentation. Here's how it might look in practice. So here we have the name brainstorming example, and in here we just say we want to choose a unique name for the dashboard panel feature on our task management application so that the names are memorable and clear for my users. And then we include some instructions here. I want you to offer me a list of 10 names for the dashboard panel feature. We want all of the names to be limited to 1 to 2 words. We see here that ChatGPT gives us some options: Task Hub, Control Center, Project View, Overview Board, so on and so forth. Now, you can see that the applications of this is interesting because we could, for example, maybe we have the name of a widget or a component or something of some sort of workspace. And later, once the application is near complete or somewhere in the beginning of the planning phase, we can write documentation on these features. And we're going to need a name to associate with these features. Okay, and this gives us, without having to think about them too much, quickly, some nice creative names. Task Deck could be a good name here. Task Portal. So some of these are very unique. Some of them are a little more common and mundane in some facts, but they all have some unique qualities. And the greatest takeaway here is that it gives us something to work with. Instead of starting from zero, from just with nothing, and we have to think of it ourselves, now we have an AI that can help us. And we can do near infinite amounts of options here. We can regenerate this if we want. And we can keep doing that, and we can check all of the various options here. Most of them are the same, but you get the idea here that we are brainstorming names, and this can be applied to anything where you need a creative name quickly and efficiently. Next up is outcome brainstorming. Now, we already know that ChatGPT can offer false information sometimes, false or misleading information, but we're not worried about that. This is because we are only utilizing ChatGPT for brainstorming to generate ideas and grow our awareness of potential opportunities and avenues. With outcome brainstorming, how it works is we give ChatGPT a scenario, a situation, something that is occurring that we want to anticipate a potential outcome, and it will in turn give us some real possibilities or outcomes to think about, to test, to experiment with. You will often find when using this type of brainstorming that ChatGPT will offer you something that you would have never considered prior to using an AI tool. Therein lies the value and the beauty of using AI tools in brainstorming sessions. Let's take a look at an example of how you might use ChatGPT to formulate potential outcomes. Next, we have the outcome brainstorming example. And in here, we see that we are considering starting a blog, which is centered around AI image generation software, but we have some concerns about the viability of this niche. And then we give some instructions here of, I want you to help me brainstorm and think critically on the viability of this niche. And then we give some clarification, some more information. Again, specificity and detail is important. To clarify, my concerns are that as artificial intelligence begins to become more advanced in the next 5 to 10 years, the need for new programmers will lessen. In your opinion, what would you predict the industry look like in 5 to 10 years for AI programmers, and which technologies would be in high demand? So we lay out all the information that the AI needs to know. We include clear instructions of what we want and why we want it, as well as the sort of topic that we're focusing on here. And we get an answer here regarding some trends, mentioning DALL-E and Midjourney, future projections, industry projections, things like this. And so what's important to understand here is that, again, we are brainstorming. So these are not, set in stone things, and many of these might not even be fully correct, but they're giving us ideas. And in some cases, they can actually open our eyes to certain avenues and opportunities, maybe even certain topics we didn't even know existed. And now we've gained some value simply by putting in a correctly written prompt. And so the idea here is to take what it gives you, think about it, apply some logic and some reason, maybe some experimentation, depending on what you're researching. And then from there, you can look into new things related to the information you've gathered here with Edge AI and Explainable AI, XAI, all these different types of topics. You can then explore more. Finally, we have research brainstorming. Research brainstorming can be quite broad and it can encompass anything from researching new ideas to discovering competing products that have a similar feel to what you're trying to create. Now, as we discussed, ChatGPT is prone to the occasional misinformation or false information. What we are looking for again is brainstorming value in the form of new little rabbit holes that we can jump down into. Let's take a look at an example where we utilize ChatGPT for research brainstorming. And lastly, we have an example of the research brainstorming technique. And now this one is one I use often in my work as well. So we see here that we have a much longer prompt, but this is actually one that I've used in the past here. And I'll just quickly touch on the points here. I'm a UX UI designer looking for inspiration to add to my growing library of UI concepts. Again, the what, the why, the how. I want you to help me find new sources of inspiration through real life production applications. So we're given the instructions that we want real applications out there in the market that are sort of similar to what we're searching for. In particular, we're looking for a project welcome screens similar to Unity Hub. So it's a competitor there or a real product in the marketplace to add to my library. For context, a project welcome screen is a UI page that is often shown when a project is first launched and has the primary purpose of showing recent projects, current projects, options to add, delete, modify projects, and select templates to create with. And so there we give some more context into what we consider project and welcome screens, because again, we want to be as specific as possible because the AI can run with anything we are ambiguous about. And then lastly, the instructions. Please offer me a list of real applications or web apps that have this type of project welcome screen. So now we have a list of real applications with a sort of description or a bullet point showing what the page actually is. So here we have the welcome screens in Adobe applications for every sort of product they have. The welcome screen includes recent projects, Blender startup screen, Figma start page showcases recent projects. We have all these pieces of software that have the kind of screens we're looking for that we can then go out and actually look for. Instead of having to just randomly search applications or go on forums or just search through the applications we have in our library that may match or may have a project screen, because not every application has a project screen, this gives us a list of applications that have project screens or welcome screens that we can then go look at and then build a database of inspiration. So again, the idea here is to cut back on the amount of time we spend researching, searching, thinking, all sorts of things so that we can get right into the task at hand and then move on to the next, hopefully, and save time. That is the goal. And research brainstorming is a great technique for quickly finding a large list of anything you can think of, really. So there you go. That's how you can use ChatGPT or any other AI chatbot you prefer to help cut down on some of those tasks that take a little bit too long and allow more free time for you to do what you do best. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and always be learning. Until next time.